Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to the Most High, Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Rakak. And I want to say Shalom to Yaakov and Akwat out there pursuing this truth diligently. Coming at you once again with another lesson. And this one's titled, Why do white people hate black people? With a question mark, and then of course, it's going to say the birthright. The birthright. It's not about skin color. I mentioned this a couple days ago. It's not about skin color. It's not about anything else. So this is really a milk lesson. All right. As you know, a couple days ago, Apostle DeHart basically stated that we're already, in the start of Jacob's trouble. Right. So with that, I want to do a couple more milk lessons, right here at the end. So people say, "Oh, we never had it." Well, we were going right up to the end till we got shut down from doing it. So you can't say you never found out anything about Jacob and Esau, or who you are, or who they were, really nobody has an excuse not to know they're an Israelite now. Especially since like 2019, 2020, the word, really started going out at an all-time high to the point where the Google algorithms, they know, all right? They see what's being searched, all right? And you can go and look up Google Trends and see what people are looking up, all right? So you can go to Google Trends and you can look up the word black people Israelites, all right? And you can go interest and over time. So now they're hiding it. No data. Are black people Israelites. Okay, and we'll go to past 2004 to present. Look at this. When was this peak? Boom. When was this? Come on, can I get up there? 2022. All right, 2022, and around 2022, there was a big peak. You can see there's some peaks. Boom, right here. All right, I wonder what happened on August 2012, are black people Israelites. All right, but there's peaks every once in a while. So you can't say, and up until, about 2006, okay, there wasn't really, I don't think they had Google Trends like that, but maybe. But, and you can see it's 62 now, right? So that used to be like a peak. All right. Oh, November 2022, 100 individual sources of our black people Israelites. So just as of October, we already got 62. So people know. All right. People know. Okay. People know. And you can see where it's being searched of the most. Louisiana, Arkansas, Indiana, Ohio, a lot of white places. South Carolina. There you go. And then all up, where the brothers are. Connecticut, New York. All right. So, man, black Hebrew Israelites, what are Israelites? Are black people Hebrew? Black Hebrew Israelites, who are the Israelites? A lot of different things, and we can go and look at black Hebrew Israelites, and that's not what we call ourselves. We call ourselves Hebrew Israelites, but, and they try to keep this. No one's really interested in this, but it's funny because right around 2019, we had that peak that I mentioned. Okay, and then we keep having little peaks. We didn't have these peaks before, but there's peaks now. People know, all right? People know. So really, if you don't know, in 2025, you're so-called Negro, Latino, or Native American. Those are terms that they put on us. They call us, our people, Negroes, or Latinos, or Native Americans, or Mexicans, or any black, or white. White is what they use for them, but black, or, all these different things, they call us all these different things, but if you should know, all right, at this point, that you're an Israelite, all right, that you go back to the seed line of Jacob, all right, you're an Israelite, okay, and you are the Lord's chosen people, all right. He didn't choose everybody, all right. Well, it says, what about John 3:16? Well, John 3:16 uses the word, if you look up that word, world, all right, it goes back to the word cosmos, okay, and cosmos is used for it can be used for the world of something. Think about it, Well, I got a couple boxes of it in my little display on my desk. So the World of Warcraft, not the whole world, just the World of Warcraft, right? The Warcraft world, or the world of skateboarding, or the world of reading, the world of knowledge, right? The world of Israel, okay? The Lord's world, the one who he chose, all right? Which is, of course, the Israelites. And he said it plain, all right? Amos 3 and 2, it's pretty plain. It says, Amos 3 and 2, let me go up to verse 1. All right, and the Lord does not change his mind. All right, matter of fact, now Esau probably say does God change his mind? Okay. Well, it depends on the interpretation. All right, you can see right here. Got questions. Does God change his mind? No, God does not change. God is unchanging and unchangeable. He is also all wise, so he cannot change his mind, all right, in the sense of realizing a mistake. Okay, he cannot change his mind. He does not change his mind. Okay, he does not. It says some Christian theologians assert that God is immutable and does not change. Okay. So, and the Father's real name is Yahweh. All right, if you're interested in that, you can go. I just made a lesson about it. I always recommend going to another brother's channel, but since you're here, I just made a lesson about it called right here 3 days ago, Knowing the Lord's Name is Mandatory, and it talks about, how we got that name. Now, I'd also recommend you going and checking out, let's see, and let me go and get, because it never wants to pop up for me, but GMS Info Doc, channel 12. Matter of fact, I bet that'll work. Because now we, but man. Well, it worked for a second. I don't know what it is. Would they want to always hide the Apostle Romalov's page? Oh, no, there he is. Okay, cool. So I don't know. Maybe they were hiding him somewhere down and out in somewhere. But yeah, I like to be able to see his channel. So I guess if that happens, unsubscribe and resubscribe. Maybe they'll put it into. I don't know. I have no idea. I don't know how any of that YouTube bullshit works. But I just know that now I can see him, right, along with the other apostles up at the top, and that's what I'd like, right? So I like to put all the music stuff right up at the top. All right. Oh, I guess it's because these are the people that are live. But yeah. So you can go and this is the Apostle Ramalab. All right. This is the Apostle Gabar, and this is the Apostle Dahar. Really in a reverse order, kind of. But you can go and look up the name. You can see Yahweh's name on a Moabite stone. You can go and find a bunch of different stuff. Let's see. Honoring the true names, the Most High and His Son. Any Israelite that calls on the name of Jesus Christ took that bag, because we already know, if you go into that, the name cannot be Jesus Christ, because I'll prove it to you right now, because some people are like, I'm clicking off of this. This is horrible, right? Well, if you go and look up when did the J get invented, all right, and bear with me, don't leave just yet, just stay for this part. All right, the J was invented in 1524 by Italian grammarian Gian Giorgio Trissino. Okay, distinguished its distinct sound from the vowel I for the first time. Before Trissino, I and J were used interjectively. Okay, so it couldn't have been Jesus. Okay, if anything, it would have been Iesus. All right, but Iesus is a Greek name, and can you tell me, was the son, all right, of God, all right, as you would ignorantly call him, all right, because his name's Yahweh, would the son, who is Hebrew, have a Greek name? All right, no, he would not. And if you look up, what that name means in Greek, Jesus, it means dirty earth, all right, or earth dirt. Would you want to call the son something as low as earth dirt? No, you would not. No, you would not. Okay, so But if you want to stay on that, that Jesus juice, all right, then you can go right ahead. We're not going to try to pull you out of it, all right? If you want, if you want to stay like that, then hey, you stay like that, and there's nothing we can help. You can be drunk on that Jesus juice, and in the end, when shit's really going down, you're not going to have no help, and, well, should have known. Well, here's a scripture for you. Here's one for you. This is Judges 10:4. It says, we'll start from 13. It says, "Yet ye have forsaken me and served other gods, wherefore I will deliver you no more." Notice gods had a little g. Okay, it says, "Go and cry unto the gods which ye have chosen. Let them deliver you in the time of your tribulation." So, go and see if Jesus will help you out in the end days. All right. Spoiler alert, he won't. Okay, and you can go in here, look up the name. There's plenty of, there's plenty of lessons. All right, there's plenty of lessons. Right here's a great one. There's plenty of lessons. Plenty of lessons out there about the names of the Father and the Son. Like I said, I don't like just shouting myself out. I usually don't, but I just made a lesson on it. So, what is the name of the Lord? Tracking the name Yahweh in the Bible. That's about an hour long. You should go and look up that one. A few words on the name Yahweh Shai. You should go and check up that one. Here's another one. Same thing. Oh, this is a re-upload. That's the spirit and power of Yahweh Shemiah Shai right there. Look, he re-uploaded this lesson from 3 years ago. Only 8 hours ago. Only 8 hours ago was that re-uploaded. Go and watch it. Go and check it out. A few words on the name Yahweh Shai. If you can't do a search, if you can't do a search on here on your phone, you can type in, look, I'll show you that it'll pull it up. Remnant saved 144, and then a few words on the name. Right? And then you'll be able to find it, right? It's right here. You can go and find it. There's even reposts. All right? 2 reposts of it. So there you go. Here's another one. All right. So don't say you can't find it. All right. You might have to do a little bit of extra searching. All right. If YouTube won't do it, Google might. You can type in like this, and then go into what will happen to a bloodthirsty nation. Is his newest video. Well, not his newest, but that's the one that pops up. His newest one is right here. Various topics. So, what will happen to a bloodthirsty nation? So you type in this. What will happen to a bloodthirsty nation? Oh, and look. I even spelt it wrong. And look. It pops right up. All right, same video. So if you can't search it through Google, try searching it. If you can't search on it, by finding a little search button because you're not on a laptop or a desktop computer, you're on a mobile. I wish they would add that feature, but it's not there yet. And you can't find it from going up here and typing it in. Then try searching it on Google, right? So do it that way. So anyway, but yeah, man. So there's really no excuses not to know anything. All right. There's no excuse, at the end of the day. If you don't know, it's because Yahweh Shemiah Shai don't want you to know, and that's as simple as that. But like I said, I want to make another lesson on this. All right. Refresher lesson, as I tend to do quite a bit, because hey, man, we're in Jacob's trouble. All right. You can't have anybody saying, oh, we never heard about it. Look, the internet, it's going out. All right. If you somehow managed to avoid the thousands upon thousands upon thousands of videos, you somehow managed that we're putting out all constantly, brothers all around the world, and then you also on top of that happen to ignore, if for a moment, all right, grouping in all the Hebrew Israelite groups together, all right, GMS is the one you want to learn from if you want the truth, but grouping all of the Hebrew Israelite camps in at one, and this is the only time that it's ever, a reasonable thing to do. You say you haven't ran into no one? You haven't ran out to GMS on the highways and byways? You haven't seen IUIC? I've ran into IUIC at a fucking Smith's okay? A food place, a restaurant, not a restaurant, a grocery store, all right, out there handing pamphlets. At a Smith's, all right? Over on the East Coast, they call it Kroger. On the West Coast over here, they either call it Smith's or Fry's. Okay, not Fry's Electronics, but Fry's, the food store, Kroger. And then if you're in like California, Oregon, I think they call it Fred Meyer. Same place. I saw them at a Smith's. You're gonna say you've never seen them ever, right? I only stumbled across them because I was in this truth. No, man, they were at a Smith's, all right, and it was at the Jake Smith's too. So we don't usually go to that one because it's in the rougher area, and Jake just acts like an asshole in that area. All right, but that's where IUIC loves to go. They love to go to the ghetto. That's the place with the ghetto, woohoo! They might as well be fucking Mario or Luigi with the ghetto, right? They love going around ignorant jakes that don't want to learn. All right, that's their favorite place to be. So you're gonna say you haven't seen no one. All right, no one. All right, I know I've personally seen IUIC. All right, out there on the East Coast, you can see ISUPK. GMS is everywhere. IUIC is everywhere too. I don't know about ISUPK. I don't know how wide their camps go. I usually see them in I think it's New York or somewhere is where you usually see their stuff going on. But GMS and IUIC is everywhere. All right, they're everywhere. Okay, and everyone says, IUIC is the biggest camp. Biggest maybe by number. All right, but when it comes down to it, GMS is in everywhere. They're outside. They're in the United States. They're outside of the United States. All right, United States territories. All right, everywhere, man, everywhere. You got them in England. Got them in plenty of places. I can't remember all the places, but there's a lot of places. All right, I think there's even some brothers in Denmark. All right, there's a lot. Okay, and you're gonna say, with all these Hebrew Israelite camps out here, and GMS has, it all right, through Yahweh Hashem Yahweh Shai. IOIC has some things correct, and some doesn't really add up, all right? You have to have, 100% or no percent. But you're going to say, with all these camps out here, you haven't ran into one. You haven't heard about one on TV. You haven't come across one video on the internet. You haven't seen one YouTube post about a Hebrew Israelite. You haven't seen one YouTube post. You haven't seen one news article. You haven't seen nothing? Nothing at all? Nothing. Now, what about Kyrie Irving when he was talking about it? You didn't see that. What about Kanye West? You didn't see that? You didn't hear about any of those things? None of them. None of it. Where the fuck have you been? Under a rock? Right? And you're saying, now he's saying swear words. Well, no. That's when you start to put man-made wisdom, all right, into equating it to biblical things, all right, that I can't say the word shit. Does it say that in the Bible? Then don't add unto the Bible, all right? Don't add unto it and say, God said we can't. He never said you can't say swear words. All right, he said not to swear, and what does it mean to swear? All right, I swear this. I swear that I did this or that. That's swearing, okay? That is swearing, all right? You're cursing. You're allowed to curse, all right? Did not Ezekiel put out a curse on the children that were saying, "Go up, thou bald head"? Did he not? Or was that Ezekiel or was that Elijah? 1 minute. Go up, thou bald head. Elijah, not Ezekiel, but Elijah. So, did he not put a curse? All right, and those bears, all right, came out and tore 40 and 2 children, I believe, as it says. All right. So, was that not a curse? Okay, there's several curses that was put out by the prophets on the unbelievers and heretics. All right, all throughout the Bible. So what are you talking about? You Christians don't know nothing because you don't know how to interpret it, because you don't have the Holy Spirit, and a lot of time it's because you're Edomites. Okay, so anyway, a little preamble. All right, little rant. All right, so if you ain't got it yet, right? If you haven't even heard anything, right? If you're here, right, you must have heard something, or maybe now it hit, right? And you should, hey, call all Yahweh Hashem Yahweh Shai for that, because if you've avoided it now and now you're getting it, hey, then the Lord must be wanting you right at the end to get you, have you wake up. All right, if you've avoided this whole time, that's really astounding. All right, if you've managed to avoid anything about the truth of this whole time. All right, a lot of the people, they've heard about it before, but they eventually get around to it, right? Or they don't get around to it at all, right? It starts to wear on you. You're like, man, I gotta go look those guys up, right? You saw them a couple months ago or a month ago. You said, I gotta go look those guys up, man. They were saying some stuff, and all the things I'm seeing, maybe those guys were right, right? So that's a lot of the people that end up, searching for the videos, or you stumble across the camp and they'll point you to the videos. Or some people, if you stumble here randomly, hey, that's a good sign, right? You just happen to find it, right? So, back on the topic, little introduction, preamble rant. But what we're talking about today is, why does Esau, all right, why does the so-called white man, all right, who is Esau, hate the so-called black man, who is Jacob? All right, for the most part, right? And what I mean by for the most part is, again, and we just talked about this the other day, most of the white-looking people you see are Edomites, and most of the black-looking people you see are Israelites, okay? Or Ham. It depends on how they look. But it's not all based off of, look, all right? It just happens to be that's how most of us end up looking, right? So, but it all goes back to bloodline. It all goes back to seed line, okay? It all goes back to seed line. That's probably a lesson I'll have to make soon is, getting into the seed line. And how it goes to the Father, all right, and that's the and we're gonna do it now. We're gonna do it now. So, what you got to realize is that Israelites, all right, come from Jacob, all right. Jacob's name was later changed to Israel after he wrestled that angel, right, and he was awarded the title, his name being changed to Israel. All right, now remember that Israel is a people, all right, before it's a place. Okay, so when you hear Israel, it's usually referring to the people of Israel, okay, the Israelites, okay, and Israelites are different than Israelis. The people that are over there now, they're not the real people, all right, they're Europeans, all right, that usurped that land, all right, in 1948, all right, after it was usurped by the Palestinians, all right, after it was usurped by multiple different nations, after, the siege of Jerusalem. All right, and after, when the diaspora hit, and the diaspora is the scattering of Israel. Okay, all of us, all right, we were originally from Israel, but we are scattered abroad because we were not doing according to, the Lord's will. All right, who's the Father's name is Yahweh, and the Son's name is Yahweh Shai. You'll hear me refer to Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahweh Shai. Bahashem means in the name of, and this is all Paleo Hebrew, the original Hebrew tongue, not like the Aramaic that they have now, because that's not the true language. The true language is the Paleo Hebrew. So, and through the scriptures, if you've read it, most people know you can't reach the Father but through the Son. Okay, so Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahweh Shai, the Father in the name of the Son, is what I'm saying. Yahweh, the Father, Ba'Shem in the name of Yahweh Shai, the Son. Okay, so, when we were not hearkening unto what Yahweh at the time, told us. All right. Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahweh Shai, really, there was people that were saying crucify him in Yahweh Shai's time as well. So we were just being disobedient, all right, weren't listening, so we were scattered among all nations, all right, and that's, when we were scattered, certain things happened, like the colonialism with Gad, being scattered in North America, and then, of course, the colonialization happened with the colonizers, all right, those Europeans that sailed over and, started the colonization of the Americas, right, and displacing and murdering and raping the Native Americans, as they're called now, the Gadite men and women and children, all right, and they did that, as well as the Ishkarites that were here at the time, that were referred to as them as Aztec, or really Mexicans, but Mexican is a term that really came later, because Mexicans are really 50-50, all right? Some are Israelites, some are not Israelites, all right? There's a big chunk of both, all right? Because you're going to have the chunks that are Aztec, that were the original people, those are the Ishkarites, okay? And then you're going to have that were labeled as Mexican, all right? And then you have the Mexicans that came later that weren't really Mexicans. They weren't Aztecs, but they were European settlers as well from Spain, all right, that came over in colonialization to Mexico. All right, and then they started getting with the Israelite women, probably men too, Israelite men and women. All right, they started getting with the Israelite women. All right, and they popped, and those babies were called Mexican, but they were really just Edomites because they were through Spanish through European, which go bach to Esau. It doesn't mean that Mexicans aren't it. Mexicans for the most part, are Israelites, all right? But there are also some that are just Edomites, all right? It's the same thing with Jake, all right? You can't say, oh, see, I knew these Mexicans were. You don't ever talk about the slave masters that were popping the so-called, black women, all right? And those babies were Edomites as well, because it all goes through the seed line, all right? And let me show you, all right? They declared their pedigree by the house of their fathers. So this is Numbers 1 and 18. It says, and they assembled all the congregation together on the first day of the second month, and they declared their pedigrees after their families by the house of their fathers, according to the number of the names from 20 years old and upward by their polls. Now, I'm very curious because this is pretty much straightforward, all right? It says, and they declared their pedigrees. And you can look up what a pedigree is, and you're going to see the term race, all right? You're going to see the term race, ethnicity. It says, right here it gives it away. It says the recorded ancestry, especially upper class ancestry of a person or family. And being that, we're Israelites, all right, that's a royal priesthood, all right, as the Lord called it. So you're going to see race, all right, origin, all right, genealogy, paternity, what is paternity?
Paternity.
The state of being someone's father, all right, paternal origin, from the father. They even know pedigree is determined by the father. Okay, but if you go and simplify this, and you can just by go and look it up, we'll get the GNT, and you can read it. I'm not hiding anything, but I want it to be a little bit more simple. It says, yeah, see that got rid of it. It doesn't even say it by the house of their fathers. So let's try the NLT and NLV. Let's try the NLV, New Life Version. It says, well, I mean, it's pretty simple, but this is Numbers 1 and 18 in the New Life Version. It says, and they gathered all the people together on the first day of the second month. The people gave their names by families, by their fathers' houses, but by the number of names from 20 years old and older, head by head. And the NLT, pretty much the same thing, but it gets rid of the whole idea of, by the father, which is really important. Okay, it's really important to have that. Okay, so it says, and they declared their pedigrees after their families by the house of their fathers. So this has been given. Oh, call you how about me? I'm shy. I was acting up earlier, but so in biblical / ancient terminology, what does the word house mean? I.e., okay. It says, in biblical and ancient Near Eastern terminology, the word house carries, the Hebrew word bayit, carries multiple layers of meaning depending on the context. In Numbers 1 and 18, it refers specifically to family lineage or clan identity, not a physical structure. So, of course, it says, in this case, fathers' houses, literally according to the house of the fathers, patrilineal family groupings, tribal subdivisions, and social and administrative unit for organizing the census. These houses were extended families or clans descended from a common ancestor, typically headed by the eldest male. This was crucial for all these different things. So, right here. So, this common ancestor was Jacob. Was it not? It says, yes, you're absolutely right. The common ancestor of the Israelite tribes was Jacob, also known as Israel. Here's how it breaks down. Jacob, Israel, had 12 sons and each became the founder of a tribe or house in Israel, the 12 tribes of Israel. If you want to see those, all right, and find out and determine who you are, all right, roughly, all right, this is that 12 tribes, all right. You got the southern kingdom and the northern kingdom. Southern kingdom, so-called black folk. Northern kingdom, so-called Latinos, all right, and Native Americans. Okay, you can go and look. You can pause this if you want this for yourself. Look up the 12 tribes of Israel, sign GMS. All right, you should be able to find it just by doing a quick little Google search. But you can see So it says, and so in Numbers 1 and 18, you can pause and read it if you want, just doing a little skipping. It says, so in Numbers 1 and 18, they declare their genealogy by clans, by fathers' houses. Each father's house is a subdivision of a tribe, tracing lineage back to one of Jacob's sons, and then further down to that son's descendants. Think of it like this: tribe of Judah, clan of Perez, house of Hezron, etc. And it gives you a visual summary. It says, so yes, the houses in Numbers 1 and 18 ultimately trace back to Jacob, Israel, the patriarchs of the 12 tribes. But in that context, the house refers to a branch of descendants under a particular son, grandson, or great-grandson. Notice how it's all men, organized for purposes like census, war, and worship. So if a child's father was an Israelite, but his mother was a heathen, he would still, or I'll say they, right? They would be declared an Israelite, since seed line is passed through the father. Yes, in ancient Israel society, lineage or seed line, especially tribal identity and inheritance rights, were passed down through the father. So if the child's father was an Israelite, the child would generally be considered an Israelite, even if the mother was a foreigner or a heathen. So there you go. ChatGPT can get with a lot of these fucking bugged out ass fucking camps can't get. All right, the bug out camps. All right, as Apostle Har refers to them. ChatGPT can get it. All right, no, if you got a heathen mother, you're a heathen. No, you dumbass. You dumbass. All right? You don't know nothing, man. You don't know nothing. All right? And they try to hide this. They try to hide this information because once you know it goes from bloodline to bloodline to bloodline to bloodline to bloodline, and you can see that, Esau's bloodline is still getting passed on to this day, and Israel's bloodline is still getting passed on to this day, then you're going to know there's going to be some rivalries like Jacob and Esau. Who is Jacob today and who is Esau today? Jacob, as you can see from that list, is so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. Who is Esau? The so-called white man. How do we know that? Through numerous scriptures. All right? Numerous scriptures. For example, let's go and get one. Here's a big one. This is dealing with Esau. We'll get Micah 2:1. It says, woe to them that devise iniquity and work evil upon their beds. When the morning is light, they practice it because it is in the power of their hand. And they covet fields. That means they crave fields, land. They want land. How do they get them? And take them by violence, and houses, and take them away. So they oppress a man in his house, even a man and his heritage. Okay, I'm curious. Okay, and it goes on in verse 3, and we're going to see how this links back in. It says, therefore, thus saith the Lord, behold, against this family do I devise an evil, from which ye shall not remove your necks, neither shall ye go haughtily, for this time is evil. So I'm going to go here, all right? What people is this referring to? It might not get Esau. It should get Esau. All right, corrupt leaders. No, they're wrong on that. It's talking about Judah. Nope. So so hold up. It's referring to Esau. And with that, I have a few questions. Who does Esau most fit this current day and age, taking into account their past and how they act? Controversial. It should say Europe. Should say Europeans. Hebrew Israelites. See, they already know. They sussed it out. All right. Represents modern European powers, especially Western colonial empires like Britain, America, or Rome. In this view, white Europeans, Rome, Edom, Jacob, the true Israelites, often believed to be people of, no, not African, all right, or indigenous in descent, all right. So it says in this land, Esau is seen as a dominant global power politically, economically, and militantly that stole, oppressed, and corrupted the house of heritage of Jacob, okay. It says many who take this interpretation point to Western European empires, particularly Rome, modern America, and colonial Europe. So, you know, and it's controversial. Shut up. Shut your bitch ass up. All right, so Bayou, all right, as you see people put. So, but yeah, man. So it's Esau, all right. The so-called white man is Esau, and you know, one way you can show that is if you look up where was Esau's or Edom, because Esau's name was later changed to Edom. You can check that up. Where was Edom's primary dwelling place? And it should say Mount Seir. Mount Seir. Okay, so Mount Seir. So you can go and look up. You can read it. It says Edom's primary dwelling place was in the mountainous territory of Mount Seir. Okay, now we can go and look at Mount Seir and take a look at Petra. All right, you see this? You see this? You see this? You can trace them. The other thing is can't make this shit up, man. Come on now. These are the same people. They're the same people, man. They're the same people. The same exact people. Okay? And they're through that same bloodline. And they're always doing the same thing. They love the eagle. Okay? They love the eagle. All right? It even talks about that in the curses. It says, send you another nation as swift as the eagle flieth. That's a hint. Okay? The eagle. Okay? Rome. Greek. Right, Greece, all right, modern day America, all use the eagle. All have the men with the eagle, men with the eagle, men with the eagle, right? Even the same, you know, how they have everything going. It's the same exact thing, man. It's the same exact thing. And as a matter of fact, on some of the coins, I believe they have that Greek headdress. Right? Here you go, right there, right? That's the one right there, that Greek headdress. It's the same fucking people. You'd have to be, you know, a numbnuts not to see it, right? Or just severely blinded by Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai. But that's and so it's Esau through the years. And why do they hate us? Well, boy, we're about to get into it right now. Let me grab a drink. So, why do they hate us? Why do white people, so-called Esau, hate black people, so-called Israelites, all right, and Latinos and Native Americans? Why do they hate us? All right, why do they hate us? Well, it all goes back to Genesis. It all goes back to the birth. All right, the birth. All right, the birthright. All right, the stripping of that birthright from him by Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai and giving it to Jacob. You say, oh, that was a lie, or he lied, he stole. No, it was none of that. It was none of that. And we're gonna read it. And we're actually going to read up. We're gonna read the whole story. All right, Genesis chapter 27, or at least as much as we need to. It says, verse 1, and it came to pass that when Isaac was old, and his eyes were dim so that he could not see, he was going blind, right? He called Esau his eldest son, and said unto him, my son. And he said unto him, Behold, here I am. And he said, Behold, now I am old. I know not the day of my death. Now therefore take, I pray thee, thy weapons, thy quiver, and thy bow, and go out to the field, and take me some venison. Go and hunt some venison for me, right? Because that was his favorite dish. And make me savory meat, such as I love, and bring it to me, that I may eat, that my soul may bless thee before I die. Now we're going to skip to Genesis 25 in a minute, and show you some different things, because Esau, was a man of the field, so he hunted deer and stuff. Jacob was more of a simple man dwelling in tents. He was more classy and sophisticated. Esau was more, barbaric and outdoorsy and stuff like that. All right, Jacob was more, proper and clean and and stuff along those lines, right? So it says, and make me savory meat such as I love, and bring it to me, that I may eat, that my soul may bless thee before I die. Because he was going to give, Esau being the eldest son, all right, he was going to receive a blessing, all right, as is, common as is tradition in Hebrew customs, right? Because Esau is a Hebrew, all right? He's not a Hebrew Israelite, but he is a Hebrew. He's a Hebrew Edomite. Okay, we're Hebrew Israelites. He is still Shemitic, okay? Not Semitic, but Shemitic. All right, we're Shemitic, they're Shemitic. I believe even the Asians are Shemites, Shemitic. So when they say, "Oh, you're being anti-Semitic," how can I be anti-Shemitic when I'm Shemitic? You dumbass, fucking idiot. They don't even know, and that shows you they don't know their stuff. All right, you're being anti-Semitic. First of all, it's Shem. All right, his name wasn't Sem, it was Shem. You dunce. All right, and secondly, I'm Shemitic. So how can I be anti-me? Fucking retard. Anyway. Number 5, verse 5, and Rebekah heard when Isaac said to Esau his son, or when Isaac spoke to Esau his son, and Esau went to the field to hunt for venison and to bring it. And Rebekah, this was his wife, their mother, and Rebekah spake unto Jacob her son, saying, Behold, I heard thy father speak unto Esau thy brother, saying, Bring me venison, and make me savory meat, that I may eat, and bless thee before the Lord before my death. And you say, oh, this is the woman, being tricky and doing woman shit. Well, it all goes through Yahweh Shemiao Shai. In verse 8 it says, Now therefore, my son, obey my voice according to that which I command thee. Go now to the flock, fetch me from thence 2 good goats of the goats, and I will make them savory meat for thy father, such as he loveth. And that shows you a woman, really should know what the man likes. She's like, he thinks he likes Esau's meat better, but I know what he likes. He likes it when I make this goat dish. Go and get 2 kids, and trust me, he'll like that better. In verse 10 it says, And thou shalt bring it to thy father, that he may eat, and that he may bless thee before his death. And you say, oh yeah, these fucking women. See these women. She was being guided by, Yahweh. Okay, she was being guided by Yahweh at this time, because this is the proper order of things that we're supposed to go. Now, there's stipulations, and we'll get in that when we get into Genesis 25, and we'll talk about those, but those are really just theories, okay? But in verse 11 it says, And Jacob said to Rebekah his mother, Behold, Esau my brother is a hairy man, and I am a smooth man. That's a big hint right there. Esau is very hairy. I don't know if you've ever seen, all right, the difference between a so-called white person and a black person. Sitting here, you could, if you're a so-called black person, you could look at your skin, all right, and you're very, if any hair at all, it's like peach fuzz. It's very, very little, all right, unless you're, as they would say, so-called mixed with something, because, like if you have a little bit of Gad or Issachar, all right, or down the line, your mom was an Issachar or Gadite or something, you can end up having a little bit more hair, all right, but no one has as much hair as Esau. They are hairy. They're like bears, man. They're hairy, all right, hairy. Okay, the only person rivaling them is like come on now, the Arabs. What's their Ishmael. So, that's the only one that's, trying to give them a run for their money. And Elam, all right, over in that area. But Esau, the so-called white man, very, very hairy man. It says, and Jacob said to Rebekah, his mother, behold, Esau, my brother, is a hairy man, and I am a smooth man. Now, I'm going to show you how, it's funny how they word it in the scriptures, because it shows you just how hairy Esau was. It says, my father, peradventure, will feel me, and I shall seem to him as a deceiver, and I shall bring a curse upon me, and not a blessing. And his mother said unto him, upon me be thy curse, my son. Only obey my voice, and go fetch me them. And he went and fetched and brought them to his mother, and his mother made savory meat such as his father loved. And Rebekah took goodly raiment of her eldest son Esau, which were with her in the house, and put them on Jacob, her younger son. Probably all musky, right? You know how Esau is. And she put the skins of the kids of the goats upon his hands and upon the smooth of his neck. Esau was so hairy that they had to use the skins of goats on Jacob's necks and hands. That's how fucking hairy this bastard was. It says, and she gave the savory meat and the bread which she had prepared into the hand of her son Jacob. And he came in unto his father and said, my father. And he said, here am I. Who art thou, my son? And Jacob said unto his father, I am Esau, thy firstborn. I have done according as thou badest me. Arise, I pray thee, sit and eat of my venison, that thy soul may bless me. And Isaac said unto his son, how is it that thou hast found it so quickly, my son? And he said, because the Lord thy power brought it to me. And in a way, he used subtlety and he used guile. But in a way, it wasn't a lie, because the Lord did bring this situation to him in a sense, right? And Isaac said unto Jacob, come near, I pray thee, that I may feel thee, my son, whether thou be my very son Esau or not. Because he knew he was hairy. And Jacob went near unto Isaac his father, and he felt him, and said, the voice is Jacob's voice, but the hands are the hands of Esau. And he discerned him not, because his hands were hairy as his brother's Esau's hands, so he blessed him. And he said, art thou my very son Esau? And he said, I am. And he said, bring it near to me, I will eat of my son's venison, that my soul may bless thee. And he brought it near to him, and he did eat, and he brought him wine, and he drank. And his father Isaac said unto him, come now near, and kiss me, my son. And he came near and kissed him, and he smelled the smell of his raiment and blessed him. Probably stunk, right? Like Esau. And said, see, the smell of my son is as the smell of a field, which the Lord hath blessed. All right, like that musky outdoor, or probably a little bit of sweat from being out there. The smell when you've been outside. All right, out in the woods or whatever. It says, therefore Yahweh give thee the dew of heaven, and the fatness of the earth, and plenty of corn and wine. Let people serve thee, and nations bow down to thee. Be Lord over thy brethren, and let thy mother's sons bow down to thee. Cursed be every one that curseth thee, and blessed be he that blesseth thee. And it came to pass, as soon as Isaac had made an end of blessing Jacob, and Jacob was yet scarce gone out from the presence of Isaac his father, that Esau his brother came in from his hunting. So Esau is now on the scene. And he also had made savory meat, and brought it unto his father, and said unto his father, let my father arise, and eat of his son's venison, that thy soul may bless me. And Isaac said, his father said unto him, who art thou? And he said, I am thy son, thy firstborn, there's a hint, Esau. So that means he's the older one, Esau. So remember that in verse 33, we're going to actually just put that up, and we'll put it right there. Remember that. It said, and Isaac trembled very exceedingly, and said, who? Where is he that hath taken venison and brought it me? And I have eaten of all before thou camest, and have blessed him. Yea, and he shall be blessed. And when Esau, this is how Esau is. That's another hint. He's always fucking crying. Always crying. All the time crying. When Esau heard the words of his father, he cried with a great and exceeding bitter cry, and said unto his father, bless me, even me also, O my father. And he said, thy brother came with subtlety, didn't say a lie, said subtlety, and hath taken away thy blessing. And he said, it is not he rightly named Jacob? For he hath supplanted me these 2 times. He took away my birthright, and behold, now he hath taken away my blessing. Right? That's how he sounds. And he said, hast thou not reserved a blessing for me? So let's stop at verse 36, and let's go see, and Esau right here lied. He took away my birthright. He didn't take away his birthright, right? Jacob didn't take anything, all right? He bought it, all right? This is Genesis 25 and 31. Okay. In Genesis 25 and 30, and Esau said to Jacob, feed me, I pray thee, with that same red pottage. Well, let's see. We'll actually get from verse 25. Well, let's, while we're here, we'll just start up, all right? We'll just jump to 25 now, because that's where it is. So Genesis 25 and 23, this is Yahweh speaking to Rebekah, right? It says, and the Lord said unto her, 2 nations are in thy womb. So that's the big hint right there. 2 nations. They were never going to be of the same nation, all right? They're 2 different, distinct nations, all right? It says, and 2 manner of people shall be separated from thy bowels. So they're going to be 2 different types of people, completely different from each other. It says, and the one people shall be stronger than the other people, and the elder shall serve the younger. What is this? Genesis 27:32. And Isaac his father said unto him, who art thou? And he said, I am thy son, thy firstborn Esau. Firstborn means the older, and the elder shall serve the younger. So before they were even born, Yahweh set this prophecy into place. All right, that the elder was going to serve the younger. All right, so that would mean that the younger, all right, would have to receive the birthright somehow. Okay, so Yahweh had a plan. This was all Yahweh's plan. Okay, and the one people shall be stronger than the other people. It doesn't say it necessarily who it is, but the one people being stronger is Esau is weaker than Jacob. Jacob is way stronger. Okay, Jacob is the stronger one. Okay, so in verse 24 it says, and when her days to be delivered were fulfilled, behold, there were twins in her womb, just as the Lord said there would be. And the first came out, that's the older, and the first came out red. He came out red. All right, red, not white, red. Okay, white people, so-called, are actually red people. All right, they're pink. Look at their skin. Look at them when they get in the sun. They turn red. All right, they're not white, they're red. This screen right here is white. No one's this color. Okay, no one's this white. All right, not even dead people. It says, and the first came out red all over like an hairy garment, and they called his name Esau. And after that came his brother out, and his hand took hold on Esau's heel, and his name was called Jacob. And Isaac was 80 years old when she bare them. And there was, it also talks about, a fight being in the womb. And, this is where that theory comes into place, but it's just a theory, but it could be the case. Esau is always trying to, usurp authority and doing all this stuff. And they talk about how, how Jacob had his hand on his brother Esau's heel. Some people like to say, Esau fought his way out, right? But that's just theory. The Lord already knew how it was going to be because he had everything set up the right way, right? And you can go and see how they differentiated as people. Genesis 25 and 27. And the boys grew, and Esau was a cunning hunter, a man of the field, and Jacob was a plain man living in tents. And Isaac loved Esau because he did eat of his venison, but Rebekah loved Jacob. Kind of a simplistic way of thought to love someone only because of the food. But I guess, it was just that good. And Esau is good at frying up meat and stuff. That's one of the only things he's really good at. All right, he's good at knowing how to make a steak and whatnot. All right, so but I tell you, learn the basics from Esau on how to make a steak, and then build up from there as a Jake. Oh man, you'll have a killer steak. All right, because they have a good foundation. All right, on steak. All right, but once you start adding, when I do my steak, I add salt, pepper, garlic powder, onion powder. I add chili powder, paprika, and I usually do. I'll fry them up, and whatever I can. Usually, as of lately, tallow. I'll do tallow. I do the same thing with. Well, I do that with burgers. That's what I do with burgers. I basically do the same seasoning with steak for the most part too. I fry it up. You get that hot sear. All right, sear it on each side for about like 3 to 4 minutes on each side on the hottest thing, and then let it cook to however long you want it to go. And then do a butter bait. Fry it in beef tallow and then or avocado oil, and then do a butter baste. All right, put a whole bunch of butter and keep spooning it over. And you can do things in the butter baste, and you can put like rosemary in it or however you want to do it. But I tell you, that's the way to make your steak right there. But but again, like it says, but Rebekah loved Jacob. Okay. It says, and Jacob sawed pottage. So Jacob was making pottage. Okay. And Esau came from the field, as he was a man of the field, and he was faint. He was out there hunting all day, right? And Esau said to Jacob, feed me, I pray thee, with that same red pottage, for I am faint. Therefore was his name called Edom. And mind you, red pottage, which means it wasn't even cooked yet. It wasn't even ready, which shows you Esau likes eating his shit raw. Like it says, it was red pottage, therefore his name was called Edom. All right, red, meaning red. And Jacob said, sell me this day thy birthright. And Jacob did, you might say, oh, that was wrong for Jacob to do. Well, he knew his brother didn't give a shit about the blessing, or the birthright, as he was going to exemplify in a minute. And Jacob said, sell me this day thy birthright. And Esau said, behold, I am at the point to die. And what profit shall this birthright do to me? So let me translate. He said, man, I'm about to die. What the fuck is this birthright going to do? I don't give a shit about that. Just fucking give me the food, Jacob. Give me the food. It's not even cooked yet. I don't give a fuck. Just give me the food. That's how it went, probably, roughly. Just theatricizing it, right? And 33, and Jacob said, swear to me this day. And he sware unto him, and he sold his birthright unto Jacob. He sold his birthright unto Jacob. And he sold his birthright unto Jacob. And he sold his birthright unto Jacob. Let me read this again. It says, and he sold his birthright unto Jacob. And he sold his birthright unto Jacob. He did what? He sold his birthright unto Jacob. It wasn't stolen. It wasn't sneakingly taken away. He sold it. He sold his birthright unto Jacob. And he sold his birthright unto Jacob. It wasn't stolen. Jacob didn't take it away. So that shows you that Esau's a fucking liar. All right? He's a fucking liar. He took away my birthright. You sold it, you dipshit. You fucking liar. You sold it. All right? And to show you that these people are the same people today, Jacob, Esau's blessing. That's all I'm gonna type in, and watch these Edomite Christians flip the fuck out. Okay? So, it says, why did God bless Jacob even though he stole his bro's birthright, or stole his bro's blessing? Okay? Well, he didn't steal it. Okay? He didn't steal it. Okay? Why did Jacob receive Isaac's blessing despite his deceit? All right? In Genesis 27, why was Isaac unable to take back his blessing? Was Jacob right to take Esau's blessing? What else? Why did God honor Jacob's stealing of Esau's blessing? He didn't steal it. All right. For example, another question, unrelated in a sense. Okay. So Esau sold his blessing, or his birthright, unto Jacob. Okay? Lawful transaction. Okay? Bought. What did the birthright of the eldest son entitle one to, biblically? Okay. It said excellent question. Again with Esau not being able to get it, but that's why they're probably going to shut ChatGPT down at some point, because it's giving away too much information. But at the end, we're right at the end. They probably just getting sloppy with it. It says excellent question, and you're right to call it a lawful transaction. Esau willingly sold his birthright to Jacob, and even if he acted carelessly, biblically the birthright, Bakura, was extremely significant and entailed real tangible rights and spiritual privileges. So I'm just going to, run through some of these. So double in portion of the inheritance. The firstborn received twice as much as any other son. The leadership of the clan. All right, after his father's death, the firstborn became the head of the household. There you go. Covenant blessing. The promise of land, becoming a great nation. The blessing to the nations through their seed. All right, so the covenantal blessing. All right, the blessing in which Esau was going to receive from Isaac. And that's why he didn't receive that, because Yahweh didn't have it go that way, because there was a transaction that was made. Jacob was to receive the blessing because that was part of the birthright. All right, so there you go. That's why, and he got those rights because the birthright that it was sold unto him by Esau. Okay, that's why he was able to do that, as you would say, lie or deception, and be able to get away with it. It was really guile, all right, and cunning, all right, and subtlety, all right, that he came with. And that's why he was able to receive that blessing, is because that was part of the transaction that was made. All right, when Esau sold his birthright, okay, the birthright entitled you to that covenantal blessing, all right, which Isaac was going to give Esau, all right, but Esau was no longer deserving of it. Yahweh did not allow him to get that. Instead, allowed, and nothing happens without the Lord's authority. Yahweh allowed that to happen. He didn't stop it from happening. He allowed it to happen because that had to happen for him to have that full transaction of his birthright that by the way, Jacob bought, okay, from Esau, because Esau didn't give a flying fuck about it, okay? That blessing was entitled to Jacob because he is now the holder of the birthright. And as the holder of the birthright, usually as the firstborn, even though he wasn't, now he's essentially the firstborn because of the birthright. He has the birthright of the firstborn. Okay, he's entitled to everything that a birth of the firstborn will have gotten, i.e., the covenantal blessing that was given by Isaac to him instead of Esau. There you go. So, and why do white people hate black people and Latinos? Well, that. All right, in 37, back in Genesis 27, and Isaac answered and said unto Esau, behold, I have made him thy lord. So we're lords over Esau, right? And all his brethren have I given to him for servants, and with corn and wine have I sustained him. And what shall I do now unto thee, my son? What could I possibly give you? What could I give you? Right? And Esau said unto his father, hast thou but one blessing, my father? Bless me, even me also, O my father. And Esau lifted up his voice and wept. There he goes, fucking crying again. Crying like Esau always does, always crying. 39, and Isaac his father answered and said unto him, behold, thy dwelling shall be the fatness of the earth. All right, so they're going to live in, fat, fat is lush, rich, organic matter, right? So fatness of the earth and of the dew of heaven from above. And by thy sword shalt thou live. There's the blessing of the sword, the gun, the sword, the knife, the machete, the katana, the blade, the catapult, the ballista, right? That's their blessing. And by thy sword, and the sword, just evolved over time. It was a sword. Then from the sword, it went to the bow. Then from the bow, it went to the crossbow. Then from the crossbow, it went to the musket. Then from the musket, it went to the shotgun. Then from the shotgun, it went to the rifle. From the rifle to the handgun, to the grenade, the grenade to the missile launcher, the bazooka, the bomb, the nuke, right? That's their blessings, right? That's the death instruments. That's their blessing. They live by it, all right? Shall live by the sword, all right? And have you ever heard the saying, live by the sword, die by the sword? That's what's going to happen to Esau. They're going to launch these nukes, and guess what? They're going to blow them up by authority of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, because the Lord's the one that's really going to be controlling those nukes. You're going to get your ass again, Esau. Man, you just can't get a break. Womp, womp, as the kids these days would say. It says, and by thy sword shalt thou live, and shall serve thy brother, and it shall come to pass, when thou shalt have the dominion, that thou shalt break his yoke from off thy neck. So, they were going to be under captivity under that yoke for a period of time, really in the Dark Ages. That's why they're called the Dark Ages, not because bad things were happening in the fights. Why were there so many fights? There was a power play going. Esau was under captivity under Jake, all right? That's how it was. You got to realize the Moors had total complete authority over Europe at a time. And that's also why you see the symbols of Judah, the lion, and all the other symbols of the tribes on their crests and heraldry, all right, is because that was there, and they just took it over. And then they went through the Renaissance period, which is the revival, and they went through the Crusades, spreading the new modern version of Christianity, which is Jesus and not Yahushai. And they went through all these things, knocking noses off of statues, and removing anything that showed Jachin power, because they had to do a complete power transfer. All right, that was them breaking the yoke from off their neck. All right, but they went further, and they completely said, said, oh, these weren't the Israelites. We're the Israelites, because they wanted to be. They wanted that blessing. They want to be who they could have been if they wouldn't have sold that blessing. So they say, oh no, we're the Israelites. No, we're the Jewish people. We need to get that land somehow. How can we get that land in 1948? What can we do to get Israel? Because the Palestinians are living there. Because we're not that people. Let's kill them all and take it by violence. Let's covet that field and take it by violence. Right? That's what they do. In verse 41, and here's the answer. Why do white people hate black people? 41, and Esau and Latinos and Native Americans. Why do they hate us? 41, and Esau hated Jacob because of the blessing wherewith his father blessed him. Why? And Esau hated Jacob because of the blessing wherewith his father blessed him. And Esau said in his heart, the days of mourning for my father are at hand. Then will I slay my brother Jacob. There you go. And I might as well just finish it up. It says, and these words of Esau, her eldest son, were told to Rebekah, and she sent and called Jacob, her youngest son, and said unto him, behold, thy brother Esau, as touching thee, doth comfort himself, purposing to kill thee. Now, who else killed their brother? Cain. Cain killed Abel. So it's like it's that same bloodline, all right? And that's that same bloodline that goes back to the serpent. All right, the serpent that's in, that same serpent-like spirit that, deceived Eve. All right, that's how it goes, man. It's through Cain on up. All right, and it's still passing down to this day with all these rulers and all these people that you see at work and walking around in Walmart. All right, so these sister fucking, Marlboro smoking ass, fucking cheap liquor drinking ass, fat blobs, societal stains. All right, shuffling around from one place to another. All right, that are known as white Americans. There you go. So, and showing you that, Jacob didn't say, oh, I should kill my brother Esau. I need to kill him real quick. No, that was Esau's thought. I'm going to kill him. That's how because that's what you do. It's all blood, all right? Blood. You love blood, okay? And since thou hast not hated blood, blood shall pursue thee. There's a scripture for you. Go and look that one up. KJV. Type KJV after that. And these words of Esau, her eldest son, we already got that. Salakia 43. Now therefore, my son, obey my voice and arise. Flee thou to Laban, my brother, to Haran, and tarry with him, wait around, for a few days until thy brother's fury turn away. And it never did turn away. Esau kept that wrath perpetually, as we're going to get. So that's why he still hates us. He still hates us. He can't get over it. He hates us forever. Until thy brother's anger turn away from thee, and he forget that which thou hast done to him. Then I will send and fetch thee from thence. Why should I be deprived also of you both in one day? Why shall I lose both of my sons? And Rebekah said to Isaac, I am weary of my life because of the daughters of Heth. If Jacob take a wife of the daughters of Heth, such as these which are the daughters of the land, what good shall my life do me? And then people are going to, what about when Esau came up later in his age? Well, really, he was, going to fucking kill Jake. All right, but Jake, again, used that subtlety and instead had had Esau crying again. Oh, my brother, I missed you, man. No, shut up. God damn. Always crying, man. So why did this happen? Psalms 115:3. But our power is in heavens. He hath done whatsoever he hath pleased. That's the way he wanted it to be. That's how he had it be. All right, anything that happened, that's how the Lord had it be. All right, that's how he wanted it to go. All right, he's the director. Not, hey man, why'd you make the movie like that? Because he wanted to make the movie like that, dipshit. So sit back and do your role and shut up. All right, don't be asking the director questions. He had it for a reason. All right, you cannot direct better than director. So sit down and shut up. All right, so stop it. All right, you can't understand. You can't understand the Lord's ways. All right, you're with your man's thoughts. All right, and especially if you're not in this truth and you haven't been granted a higher level of not only linguistic ability but artistic. All right, artisanal thought really is what it is. And intellectualism. All right, you're not gonna be able to understand anything that the Lord does. Okay, so Isaiah 55:8-9. Verse 8, for my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways, saith the Lord. For as the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts than your thoughts. So the Lord thinks on a different level than man, okay? And he looks in a different way, as we just talked about yesterday. Looks at a different way than man. Okay? So he's not like men, and there's another scripture. He's not like men who lie. All right, in any way, shape, or form, the Lord's not like men. Okay, he doesn't lie. All right, he's not deceitful. All right, he doesn't look upon appearance. All right, he doesn't change his mind. Right? So you wouldn't get it. You wouldn't get it as the Joker meme. You wouldn't get it. All right, as the Joker sitting there smoking a cigarette, you wouldn't get it. You wouldn't get it. You wouldn't understand. You're not in this truth. You wouldn't get it. Ecclesiastes 3:11. This is, the Lord right here. He hath made everything beautiful in his time. Also, he hath set the world in their heart, so that no man can find out the work that Yahweh maketh from the beginning to the end. We are unable to know in the full capacity everything that Lord did. All we know is everything. It's hard for us as in our mortal minds to comprehend what everything is. We know everything, but how infinite is everything really? It's impossible to perceive, really. We know that the Lord created everything. We don't deny it. All right, we bless the Lord for that. But we don't know what everything is. We only know so many things, so we can't know everything. All right, we're not know-it-alls. We can only know so many things. All right, there's probably some objects or instruments out in the world that we don't know, and the Lord had his part in making those come about. So we can't say we know everything that ever. All right. So there's things in the Bible that we don't know. Now, what we do know, we have the 100% truth on, but there's certain things that the Lord isn't going to allow us to know until, we're up and out of this place. Okay? Some people have questions about things, and we don't really have that information at the time being. Right? So Ecclesiastes 3:11 in the NLV, New Life Version, says, he has made everything beautiful in its time. He hath put thoughts of the forever in man's mind, Slakia, dyslexia for some reason. He has put thoughts of the forever in man's mind, yet man cannot understand the work Yahweh has done from the beginning to the end. A lot of work. You really can't even be able to comprehend how much work Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua has done. No one's a harder worker, right? So Ezekiel 3:5-1, showing you that the Lord hates these people, all right, and also showing you what's going on with these people. Verse 1, moreover, the word of the Lord came unto me, saying, Son of man, set thy face against Mount Seir. We already talked about Mount Seir earlier, remember? And prophesy against it. And say unto it, Thus saith the Lord Yahweh, Behold, O Mount Seir, I am against thee, and I will stretch out my hand against thee, and I will make thee most desolate. I will lay thy cities waste, and thou shalt be desolate, and thou shalt know that I am the Lord. Why? Because thou hast had a perpetual hatred, and hast shed the blood of the children of Israel by the force of the sword, his blessing, in the time of their calamity, and the time that their iniquity had an end. Highlight that real quick. Therefore, as I live, saith the Lord Yahweh, I will prepare thee unto blood, and blood shall pursue thee, so that thou hast not hated blood, even blood shall pursue thee. That's that scripture that I told you to look up earlier. Right? I didn't realize we had it in here. Sometimes I get a little confused. But perpetual means what? Never ending or never changing. All right? Everlasting, never ending, eternal, permanent, unending, constant, long lasting, without end. All right? Perennial, timeless, ageless, deathless, undying, never changing, unchanging, unfailing, immortal, unvarying, unfading, invariable, immutable, indissoluble, indestructible, imperishable, uninterrupted, continuous hatred against Israelites, the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. Why do so-called white people hate black people and Latinos and Native Americans? Now you know. Now you know. It's like the that rainbow thing. The more you know. All right. What is that? Right here. The more you know. Right? So there you go. But yeah, and the Lord's only dealing with Israel. I can't remember if I got this earlier. I think I did. But Amos 3:1. Hear this word that the Lord hath spoken against you, O children of Israel, against the whole family which I brought up from the land of Egypt, saying, You only have I known of all the families of the earth. Therefore I will punish you for all your iniquities. All right, and right now that's why we're under Esau's rule, because again he was able to break that yoke and get over us, and again we were going off. All right, so all this is a punishment for us, and Jake's gonna say, oh wait, so he punished us with slavery? Yes, Yes, he could have done a lot worse. He could have done a lot worse. He could have just vaporized us and never given us a chance. Instead, we are subject to slavery and torment for a period of years, and then we'd go back to being a righteous nation and have his word imparted in us and written within us, all right, so we could never go off again. What would you have rather had? All right, destroyed, never to exist again? All right, you dumbass, you 2/3 ones of even like that. You would have never been able to taste what a black and mild tasted like. All right, you would have never known Courvoisier or Hypnotic or Patron, all right, or Henny. All right, you would have never known the flavor. You would have never known what Too Short sounded like. So, you'd rather just be dissolved and just into nothing, never return as a nation. That's what's gonna happen to Esau. You want that to happen to you? Because the Lord could have done that, but he didn't. So, in grand scale of what the Lord could do, he didn't do is harmful as what he could have done to us. He could have just killed us all. That's what he was originally gonna do. All right, until Yahushua became the ultimate sacrifice. So we could have just been all killed. All right, that could have been that. All right, fucking complaining, unthankful ass motherfuckers, man, constantly. All right, our people are unthankful. They don't. You see all the negatives that the Lord did, all right, to you, but you don't see all the blessings that He's done to you. All right, yeah, well, He put me in this state. Yeah, for a reason. Okay, Jake, for a reason. All right, because if you had more money, who knows? You'd probably be doing all sorts of evil fucking shit, man. That's also why we don't have spiritual powers right now. Could you imagine what type of fucking supervillains Jake would be? All right. Hey, man, give me all your money before I pop your head like a balloon. Ridiculous, man. Jake's already a fucking supervillain with guns and shit. All right. And that's Esau's blessing. And now you've gotten a hold of him. Ridiculous, because you've learned the way of the heathen. As the Lord told you not to. Learn not the way of the heathen, and be not dismayed by the signs of heaven as the heathen are dismayed as them. Roughly paraphrasing, right? But that's how you are now. That's how you learn the way of the heathen. The Lord, several times throughout the Bible, the Lord told you, stop going around these people. You just had to go and be around them. You had to be around them. Led you out of Egypt. You started building the calf idol. You know, I'm going to build a calf like this calf. You know, he's our God. What, did he just deliver you out of Egypt? No. So why the fuck are you worshiping it, dummy? God damn, Jake is stubborn, all right? And that, as it says, my people, a stiff-necked people is one of the things Jake is referred to as. Exodus 32:9, and the Lord said unto Moses, I have seen this people, and behold, it is a stiff-necked people. Then what the Lord said, he said, now therefore let me alone, that my wrath may wax hot against them, and I may consume them, and I will make of thee a great nation. Right? So, and then the Lord talked, Moses talked with the Lord. All right. So that's just, you know, there you go, man. It's so Jake just ungrateful. 2 Maccabees 7:31. It says, and that 2 Maccabees 7:31, and thou that hast been the author of all mischief against the Hebrews shall not escape the hands of Yahweh. And of course, Hebrews in this case is referring to the Hebrew Israelites. Okay. And who is that? All right, who is that has done this? All right, well, no other but Esau. Okay, no other but Esau, or really anybody that decides to do mischief against Hebrews, but primarily it's Esau. It's Esau who it's referring to. But yeah, and mischief, you know, back in the day, mischief meant great evil or wicked. Now it's just like all playful disobedience. Back in the day, it had a real meaning, and it was evil. All right, evil, wickedness. Okay. So where did these terms black and white begin to be used in the first place? I had this up and I never got to it. I said, what was the reasoning, motive, and who started? So we're going to skip through this a little bit. Earliest uses of color terms, ancient and medieval references. Words like black and white existed in English, Latin, and Greek, and other languages long before they were racial categories, but they referred to objects. Light or darkness. Light or darkness. All right, for example, in classic texts, black can mean ominous, evil, and dark. White usually meant purity or divine light. All right, so why did they put that? 16th to 17th century, Europeans began encountering Israelites and indigenous people, Native Americans and Latinos, says and Asians, no, forget them, during the age of exploration, and early descriptions of Africans, Israelites, often reference skin color, but the terms were inconsistent. Ethiopian, Moor, Negro. Well, you got a whole bunch of different people here. Hold up. Ethiopians are not Israelites. All right, Moors and Negroes are the same. All right, but you'll say they're not. You'll say the Moors were actually Islamic people. Would you get your stuff right? So they wanted to lump everybody in, is what they're saying. They wanted to lump everybody in, even though the Ethiopians are different than the Negro is different than, you know, so-and-so. The Negro is different from the African's different from the Ethiopian's different from the Negro. They just want, black. All right, they're all black. We're all white. Okay, they're all black. We're all white. It says these terms became useful for justifying hierarchies. Okay, skin color became a standard, us versus them. All right, and there you go. It says white. It says right here, thinkers like Francis Bacon in Europe began associating physical traits with temperament, behavior, and worth. White increasingly implied civility, Christianity, European superiority, while black implied foreignness, inferiority, servitude. So there you go. That's where it came from. That's where it came from. So it was all just one of Esau's lies and tricks. All right, so we're not black. All right, they're or Mexican or any of these, and they're not white. Okay, we're Israelites. They're Edomites. We're Israelites. They're Edomites. Okay, if you want to get down to labeling us out, then we would be Judites or Issacharites or Gadites or from Naphtali or from the tribe of Manasseh. That's how we would be referred to, not blacks or browns. All right, even though we are actually brown. We're not black, but we are actually brown to an extent. We have a whole spectrum from light to dark. All right, and again, like I mentioned the other day, you have tares. So not every so-called white person is an Edomite, and not every so-called black person is an Israelite, because you might have some of those white people whose great-great-great-great-grandfather was an Israelite. All right, and it goes through that line, but they kept getting with white women, which white women don't influence the bloodline. Okay, so that child looks pale as a ghost now, but he's really an Israelite. Same thing on the plantation. You might have had an Edomite, slave owner that saw one of his slaves out there and popped her. She got pregnant, put out a little chocolate baby, and they might have even experienced, some bouts of slavery and captivity and a little bit of the curses, right? Because of skin color, because Esau is too dumb to differentiate. Because it's not they associate it with skin color, but it's deeper. They don't understand. That's like I mentioned yesterday or the day before. Esau goes with the skin color because they really don't know the true reason. All right, they know that they just hate us, but they say, "Oh, it's skin color." Right? I don't like. They don't understand that they're the Edomites. All right, and why they really hate us. Okay, and the same way that Jake doesn't really understand why they hate us like that. All right, why are we hated? Why do they hate us so much? Shit, damn, I don't hate them that much. Why do they hate us that much? Right? Because the birthright. That's why. So, Obadiah 1 and 10, we're going to close out. For thy violence against thy brother Jacob, shame shall cover thee, and thou shalt be cut off forever. And that's going to happen in the kingdom. 1,000 years of captivity is going to happen to these fools. And after, they're going to serve us, all right, as captives, all right, servants and handmaids, as the scriptures say. And then, that's it. They're going to be gathered and destroyed and never return as a nation again. All right, and after that, the other heathens, other than the Edomites, other heathens, the so-called Asians or whatnot, the Arabs, after the 1,000 years because they're going to be in 1,000 years captivity as slaves as well. But after that, they're going to go in their own dwelling places. We're going to rule over them. All right, we're going to be the strongest nation ruling over them. But we're going to rule over them in righteousness. All right, and they're still going to get sick and die while we won't. All right, we'll have everything and forever to enjoy it, wealth. They're just going to be, normal house. And mind you, a lot of people try to say, oh, the heathens are going to be living in squat. No, they're not. We're not going to have no ghetto in the kingdom. You got to realize what these heathens are going to be in a better situation than they are now. Okay, you got to live in hovels and huts and shit. All right, they're going to be living in your house right now. It'll probably be better than that. All right, these heathens will be living in a house better than you're living in right now. And a lot of people will say, oh, well, what the fuck? Why are they going to be living? You might think that, yeah, because you're using your current world knowledge. You might say, why the fuck would they be living in a house better than me now? Because the house that you're living in now is bullshit. All right, we're going to be living in mansions and palaces. So you got to think, palace. All right, when you're living in something like, I can't even, these aren't even going to do it justice, man. When you're living in something like this, like Buckingham Palace, when you're living in something like this, with all stuff like this in the interior, someone living in this, all right, someone living in this is going to be like, wow, all right, okay, even if they're in a little one like this, like, oh, look at that, they're trying to make, their houses look like ours, so. And we would love to be in a little mini mansion, but, even if the heathens were in something like that, man, it's going to look like shit compared to what we got. All right? These houses right now that we have are tiny. All right? We're thankful for them. call all Yahweh Hashem Yahweh Shai, but the way that Esau runs things ain't the right way. And as the scripture says, it says when the wicked are in authority, the people mourn, but when the righteous are in authority, the people rejoice. You can look that up, KJV, type that in. Showing you that when we're in authority, we're the righteous. All right, well, we're going to be. All right, we're trying to pursue righteousness, but we're not perfect. But when we're in the kingdom and we can, pursue righteousness to the full ability, the people are really going to be, the heathens are going to be better off with us than they were Esau. They're going to be living better than now. They're going to be eating better than now. And I know what that sounds like. Oh, so they're just going to have a luxury. If you really want to put it like that, in a sense, compared to now, yes, they'll be living in luxury, but they're not going to be living in luxury compared to us. All right, they're still going to get sick. They're still going to die. They're still going to have to work. All right, they're still going to, that's compared to living forever, having a vast amount of riches. All right, being able to do anything you want, whenever you want, in a righteous sense, of course. And yeah, man, they're not going to have it as good. All right, and it's going to seem low in comparison. Okay, just because you got to realize we're righteous authority. We're not going to set them in a fucking cardboard hut and be like, I'm over you, ha ha ha. See, now you're getting all wet because of the rain, because you got a hole in your cardboard roof. We're not going to be like that. All right, maybe we might be that rough during the captivity, because we're going to really be hammering them in, getting our payback, but through Yahweh Hashem Yahweh Shai and righteousness. But after 1,000 years, no, man, their payment, they can actually pay off what they've done. Realize that. The heathen can pay off what they've done. Esau can't. That's why Esau has to die. Okay? They have done so much evil that they cannot repay for it. There's no penance. There's no repentance for it. They can't. There's nothing that they can do. All right? And also, they can't be forced to learn, all right, how to worship Yahweh Hashem Yahweh Shai. It's impossible for them. All right? They're ungodly. They're profane. No one is profane as Esau. But the heathens, they're going to be taught, all right, and worship, taught to worship Yahweh Hashem Yahweh Shai and come to the feasts, celebrate the high holy days, and so on and so forth. So, yeah, man. How long did this lesson go? I feel like it went like a long time, an hour and 30 minutes. So that's fine, man. It's great. I'm glad it went that long, because a lot of information in here. You can't say you missed something. Can't say I didn't see it. I didn't hear it. No, it was here. Okay, and like Apostle Tahar, has been saying, we're pretty much in Jacob's trouble. All right, the start of it. So know that these lessons are still going out. All right, up until the time of the end, until we get stopped from making these by YouTube or somehow. It's really going to be when Yahweh Hashem Yahweh Shai decides it. So that's a lesson. So now you know. If you don't know, now you know, Jake. But so if you don't know, now you know. Right? Why does a white man hate me? Well, now you know. Now you know why Esau hates you, Jake. Now you know. Okay? So that's where we're going to close out. Lord, what was edifying. Once again, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to the Most High, Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Rakakwadash. I want to say Shalom, which means, peace unto you. Shalom to you brothers and sisters out there. In the opening, you heard me say Akim and Akwath, which means brothers and sisters. Shalom, all right, to you brothers and sisters out there. Keep enduring, keep the faith. We're almost out of here. Until next one, Lord willing, Shalom.